Hi everybody, I am SigTrent, game designer, co-creator of Everyday Heroes, and bipedal organizer of SigTrent Games. Today I'm going to update you on what's going on with SigTrent Games in week 11 of the company's history. I will also give you some game design advice, and we're going to talk a little bit about my life this week. So, what's going on with SigTrent Games? Well, last week I was determined to work on Shotgun Fantasy, and indeed, I have achieved that goal. And I spent a couple days and a couple nights digging well into Shotgun Fantasy. Had some other things going on as well, which we'll talk about, but that was the main focus of this week's efforts, and I feel like I've been very successful. I got down quite a lot of new information and puzzled over a lot of kind of key challenges and problems that I wanted to overcome. I've got an initial direction to work on those, and I've got a bunch of details. So let's talk about a little of what is in there. So the big news, I think the most exciting thing right now about Shotgun Fantasy is I made a new archetype. So we've had the 6 archetypes for a long time. There's also the mundane hero archetype from the Vol, but that doesn't get used very much except for special situations. But this is a new archetype for the game. It can work with a bunch of different ability scores, and it's pretty important for Shotgun Fantasy, and I don't want to say a whole lot more about that, but I think it's pretty cool. I've got it all laid out for its initial design, and well, there's going to be a lot of testing, so I got to make classes that run with it, and I've got to make supporting material for it, but I'm pretty excited about it. I think it'll be very cool and should work really well. I've also been working on spell-casting rules, and those are related to the new archetype, so that's going to be altogether pretty interesting, I think. I don't want to talk about it too much. It'll be, very compatible with everything in Everyday Heroes, of course, and fairly compatible with 5e stuff. And so that's what's going on. And it was a lot of work trying to wrap my head around things and figure out what approach I wanted to take. But I'm pretty happy with the way things are going. And running along at a good clip. And we'll be doing quite a bit more writing this week. So what else is going on with that? I finished cover art design. Because this week I'm going to be contacting artists about doing Shotgun Fantasy. Didn't really have a lot of luck with the wrestling game, but since I decided to shift focus, kind of paused on that anyway. We've got a new set of prospects for this book, because I want a more modern look and a more fantasy look. So we'll be doing that, and I'll let you know how that goes. But I do think the cover will be pretty cool. Next up, the big thing going on this week caught me a little bit by surprise towards the end of the week. LPJ came at me again, and he was like, "Hey, I got another project for you." I was like, "Okay, well, let me see what it is." And I looked, and I was like, "Oh boy, this ties in a lot with Shotgun Fantasy, and it could be really good." And I like how there's kind of a confluence there. I was concerned on what kind of overlap we might have, but we worked most of that out, and there will be a little bit. So these products will be connected. LPJ's book, which doesn't have a name yet, and Shotgun Fantasy. So we're working on those. I haven't done a lot with it yet, but this coming week, in addition to working on Shotgun Fantasy, I will be doing kind of the producer work for that project, coming up with an outline, coming up with some prospective names, figuring out kind of the direction and all that sort of thing for it, and reading the material he sent me. So whenever LPJ and I have been doing things, at least in the past, he sends me material that he's published in the past, and I adapt it for Everyday Heroes, usually putting my own spin on things as well. So we'll do that again. So this will be a bigger project than the Shadow Markets and Debatable Actions. So it should be a pretty sizable chunk of stuff. So it won't be coming out super soon, but we'll have a couple months working on it at least, I think, and we'll see where it goes. But I'm really excited to be working on both of these projects, because they kind of dovetail together like, I don't know, ice cream sandwiches or something like that. All right. The last thing that we've been doing with SigTrent Games this week is Anne has been diving into marketing research, coming up with some initial marketing plans, and she's got some software that she's going to try and develop that will make it easier for us to reach out to people and do promotional posts. So we'll see how that goes. She's also just getting back into her software engineering roots, so that's pretty cool, and I'm excited to see what she comes up with. My game design tip of the week, and I'm going to keep it pretty short this week, and it's really the tension between innovation and tradition. So this is something that I had to wrestle with, both with Everyday Heroes and with Shotgun Fantasy, and it's something that D&D has to wrestle with every time they do a new edition. So kind of relevant to the 2024 D&D edition. And that's really just when you're working on a game, especially an expansion to an existing game, you have to weigh these two instincts. How much do you want to innovate something new and exciting and how much do you want to stick to tradition and keep things the way they've always been and the way people expect them to be. And it's not always a easy choice, I think. You have to follow your instincts a little bit, and my instincts are usually in the side of innovation. I'm a little bit of an agent of chaos. I like to create new things. I like to be clever, and I like to improve upon what I've done before. I don't really like to sit there and go, "Oh, it was perfect. Like there was nothing wrong with it. Nothing could be improved." I like to make improvements, but at the same time, I understand that people who are playing a game, especially if they've got an ongoing campaign, don't want a lot of disruptions. They want to be able to say, my character is correct. I don't have to change it in order to be compatible with the rules. And that's one of the reasons that I always do modular approach to game design, especially when I'm working on an existing game. So if I'm going to make some new rules, like the dueling rules from Highlander, they're not something that everybody has to engage in. There's not something you have to build a character around. They are something that you can add on to the game, add on to the experience to create a certain kind of encounter, a certain kind of experience for play. And if you don't want that, you don't have to use them. And also I try to make them malleable so that you could use it for dueling in Highlander, or you could use it to get a promotion from your boss in a kind of complex social competition, whatever it is you want to do. And so I try to do that as an approach to soften the impact of innovation so that you can keep your tradition if that's what you're into, or as a player you can enjoy the innovation that I put together. I think Pacific Rim was another great example of that, and that was Goober's work, where Goober created a whole new system for robots and building mecha and fighting kaiju, but at the same time it uses the core underlying rules of Everyday Heroes, so it's very familiar to everybody, and it only takes a little bit of time to learn the additions. And it doesn't change your base game, it doesn't change how your players and characters work, but it gives you new experience in play. So I think that's optimal, and that's the approach I'm trying to take with Shotgun Fantasy. However, I always have to second guess myself because I always want to do things a little bit differently. I always want to rock the boat a little bit. But at the same time, I also want to keep things very compatible. Part of the whole mission of Shotgun Fantasy is to be able to be a good sort of conversion or bridge between actual Dungeons and Dragons rules and Everyday Heroes rules. And to do that, I need to not go too far away in one direction or the other, so that it is reasonable to take a 5e D&D monster and bring it into Everyday Heroes, or to be able to play an Everyday Heroes character in a D&D game. And that's something I'm going to be doing as a playtest with my now current game master, Brian, has agreed to let me test some Shotgun Fantasy ideas. We're playing D&D. I'm going to be playing an Everyday Heroes character, and I'll get to experience firsthand kind of the friction points between the two systems, so that we make Shotgun Fantasy as good as it can be. Now, of course, I think I know what most of those are, but it'll be really interesting for the other players to give me feedback on how that's going, for the Game Master to give me feedback on that, and for me to experience it myself. And Anne is going to be doing the same thing as me, so I'll get her input as well. And Shotgun Fantasy is definitely one where I'll be looking for playtesters. Not yet. I need to have close to a rough draft, or at least a sort of a cohesive set of rule systems, at which point I'll be running some games, and we'll also be looking for some groups who want to do some playtesting with it. So let me know if you're interested in that. I'd also really like to hear your feelings about tradition versus innovation in a game system. When you're looking at a supplement for Everyday Heroes, do you want to see new, unusual mechanics that you haven't seen before? Do you want to see things like a new archetype? Or would you like it to kind of stick to the basics and be as traditional as possible? Let me know, or a balance in between. Whatever it is, I'm curious to hear what you think, because ultimately I live to serve and design to serve your needs and your interests as gamers. All right, so that's it for the game design tip of the week. Let's look at what I've been playing this week, and it's been real simple. I fired up Baldur's Gate 3 again. They came out with a new patch, which is supposed to be kind of the last major content patch. It adds a new subclass for all the classes, a whole bunch of bug fixes and refinements, as they usually do, and also a photo mode, so you can take screenshots of your characters all together and pose them and everything. I haven't tried working with that yet. My main interest was playing the new subclasses, and it's just been about a year since I played Baldur's Gate, and I was kind of itching to get back in there, play a little bit more. I like that you can play on honor mode now, and if your honor mode run fails, you can just kind of switch it over to custom difficulty mode. So I'll just start all my games on honor mode and we'll see how far we get. So far, so good. I'm kind of in the middle to late part of Act 1. I haven't been killed yet. Had some close calls, had some characters get murdered in a fight, especially with the Tool Owlbearers. That was pretty risky. But managed to escape whenever things went bad, get the party back together, come back in, take care of business. So far so good. I'm playing Avanos, which is a character I played in Dungeons & Dragons Online. He's sort of a elven hunter of men, kind of a ruthless assassin. So I'm playing him as a Dark Urge character and trying to, in a way, give in to the Dark Urge privately, but then publicly to appear to be a hero or at least a mercenary sort of a character that isn't a depraved maniac. So we'll see how that goes. So far, so good. I've mostly been heroic. In fact, I managed to do some things that I'd never done before. Like I managed to sort of redeem the dark druid lady. Now I'm going to forget her name. That's in Baldur's Gate. I've never done that before. I've never gotten her to admit she was wrong and come over to the other side. So I was kind of surprised. Always, either defeated her or brought the other druid back or, something, but never redeemed her. So that was kind of interesting and surprising. I don't know, a few other little bits and bobs, although by and large, the story of the game, like lots of little details play out differently, but the overall plot's pretty much the same. And it doesn't really start to stem off until Act 3. So far, very familiar playthrough, but having a good time. And still, despite many, many playthroughs, discovering new little things. Baldur's Gate 3, most amazing computer RPG that has yet been created. Hopefully, someday, something will surpass it, but it's going to take a lot. What about life in general? Well, I'm doing okay. I've been very busy and very active, but because I was focused on writing Shotgun Fantasy and not trying to do a million other things like taxes and stuff, today and this week have been pretty chill. So that's kind of nice. Busy, but not hectic and not quite as stressful as usual. So that's nice. I've been getting a little bit of extra rest and just kind of keeping myself chugging along. I'm very excited for the new products. So that's really great. A couple weeks ago, I didn't have a lot. I mean, I had a lot I wanted to work on, but I didn't really have my teeth into it yet. So it was a little hard to get excited about. It was more sort of that fear of the blank page. But over that, and we're deep into the work now, and that always makes me really happy. It's kind of my happy place. I'm going to do some connection with family this week. I just haven't called people in a while because I've been busy with the new business and lots of stress and learning the new job and all that kind of stuff. And when I've a little overwhelmed with my own life, I tend not to be reaching out to other people so much. So things are kind of nailed down a little bit now, so it's time to, go connect with people, see how they're doing, see what's going on with people I care about. So that's where we're up to this week. I hope you guys have a great time in gaming, and we'll see you next week. SigTrent out.